passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on, so Newhoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the round pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go at Werrell. Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching. And Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Coming down, does he have it? Oh, look at Johnson! Haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's gonna do it! Big Barry!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another season of the Sim Racing Collective F4 Sprint Championship. We take two, of course, the infamous Formula 4 machines that have proved their success. Myself, Zach Sweeney, James Parfitt alongside me in the commentary booth to talk you through both of our races here tonight. One 15 minutes in length, the other 25 minutes with a top 10 reverse, and of course, chance for a little bit of rain. We take to Snetterton here today, the luscious sights of Norfolk, England. And James, of course, a new season, a new beginning, and some great machines to take us racing.
Yeah, it should be really good. Love the F4s, 160 brake horsepower, 570 kilos, and a nice little multi-shift gearbox just to go with them as well. And we're on the short layout at Snetterton, which is basically in equivalent Snetterton oval layout, right? Because not a lot to it. You go down the start, finish straight, turn right, turn left, and you start all over again. 8 corners these guys have got to contend with as well. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting, I think, on this one. No Josh Middleton, who won last season's championship. Not here, but we have still got some very speedy races there instead.
Yeah, we do indeed. Some really big names. Of course, those that follow some other TSRC contingents will know the likes of Oscar Soristo, the likes of Jamie Nuttall, of course, a champion over in the TSRC PC GT3 Championship. A couple of other names as well from that particular contingent, the likes of course, Marcel Hess. We have also got Gurley Conchabo in there, Guillaume Hamling as well. Plenty of recognizable names here to prove themselves in what I have to say, I'm never shy from saying it. The Formula 4 machines are hands down my favorite cars on iRacing. They are the perfect blend between, like, they're fast, but they're not overwhelming. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I do understand what you mean. They're a good trainer car, the Formula 4s. You go obviously you would look at Super Formula Lights, Super Formulas, W13, and move up. But open wheel is not something that's really mainly loved as such on iRacing. I think open wheel doesn't quite get the love that it deserves, considering it's quite a big part of the iRacing setup. And I think at the end of the day, you're looking at GT3s, really the main kind of focal. We get a new one every season when there's other series like the TSRs that could do love as well. So I think for this, as Nuttall just goes and puts it on pole, Tom Davidson in second and Aaron Fall on third. I think the open wheels, it's going to be an interesting one. I'd like to see how these guys run. Obviously, the first one's always going to be a little bit dodgy because obviously you know who to go wheel to wheel with, who to get room with, and make sure that you don't get tapped by anybody. So it's going to be an exciting one, I think.
It is, and of course it's not just today. Obviously that's not necessarily how a championship works. We have got, in typical, again, TSRC fashion, 6 rounds of racing action. Today we start probably at the peak, as that's not the way to handle the Brundle Nelson chicane, as proved by the TSRC car. We, of course, start today, arguably, as I say, at its peak here in Snetterton. In a week's time, we'll head to Sebring, then Oschersleben to head to round number 3, Fuji for round 4, Oran Park and the Hockenheim Ring to round off the season. And yes, that is what not to do. So talking of this car being quite a nice trainer car, James, well, certainly learned something there.
Yeah, he definitely did. Not to hit the grass. Because
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Because slick tyres don't hit grasses very well. As Frank Ruiz goes into pole position there, just seen him in the background go over the line. Bobby Moss in the famous Nigel Mansell Red 5 livery, for anybody old and can remember that one, him going side by side with Senna down the straight was absolutely incredible. Took the 1992 F1 championship there, Zach. You're not going to remember that because you weren't even alive at that point.
I was minus 14, James.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
the more that Nigel Mansell with win at 31 one championship.
There we go, Nigel Mansell. So fielding hopefully going to channel some of that Nigel Mansell energy into his racing, even though his name's Moss, and surely it'd make more sense to go for a Sterling Moss livery as opposed to a Nigel Mansell one. But whatever tickles your fancy, we don't judge the liveries unless it's a Red Bull one. And on that note, I really dislike people that use F1 liveries on like any other car that's not an F1 car. I don't know. It's not for me. Tom Davidson tops qualifying once again, a 1:08.251. Of course, it's looking very, very close at the top. You can see Hoot just about half a tenth back. Puerto Ruiz just less than a tenth back. Nuttall full a tenth and a half separates the top 5. When you've got a circuit variation that is essentially an oval, you are going to be lending yourself 2 lap times that are incredibly close. How is that going to translate into, of course, race 1, then into race 2? Does this qualifying session set the tone for the race, or is it the be-all and end-all? Does it not even matter?
It doesn't really matter. I think a lot of aspects taken into qualifying itself, right? Yeah, it's great if you can get up the front. And at some circuits, it's important, like Long Beach. You want to be at the front for Long Beach. You want to be at the front for pretty much most road circuits. But other circuits you can get away with, and I think Snetterton could be one of them. I think the draft is going to be exceedingly strong. They've got the Bentley straight to run down. They've got out of Murray's down into turn 1, so the lead change will be always happening. Tom Davidson goes faster again on a 1:08. Jamie Nuttall on a 1:08.217. So I think at the end of the day, they've got to be aware that, yes, pole can be important at tracks. I don't think it's going to be mightily important here.
That's fair, because, I mean, we've got, literally, not, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's a little kink there, so I forgot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 corners, depending on obviously what you count as a proper corner or not. With that, we've got the pit straight. We've got the Bentley Straight, which is the longest straight in the UK. So a long run from Williams into Brundle and Nelson, that complex there. And even then, it's not the hardest of braking zone. So are we just going to be expecting sort of, that NASCAR dynamic, slipstreaming off each other, waiting for an opportunity to go for a move? Because, well, I mean, is it worth battling for the first 10 minutes of the race if you know full well you can get the moves done in the last 5?
Not really. We've seen people wait till the very last lap at tracks like Road Atlanta, Road America, and I don't see this one could be any different. Obviously, in the last lap, you've got 2 opportunities, 2 bites of the cherry almost. So I think going forward for them, it's not going to hurt being in second or third when it comes to the final lap of the race. As long as you're close enough, you're in that 2.5 attempt slipstream area, you'll still get that draft going forward. And I think you've got to look at the end of the day, what they're going to look at doing is obviously getting that draft as best as physically possible. And it's going to be one that's going to take effect, I think, here tonight, as we've got May, come on, Bobby, and you Sasha, go Gullum, Sean O'Reilly, go James there. So welcome in, guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget, like, subscribe, turn on the bells, depending on where you're watching it, whether it's on the JBB channel or the TSRC YouTube channel. And subscribe to both. Why not? You get great action all the way through the week. So get yourselves involved in that one. Kieran Sharp at the moment sitting in third on a 1:08.29. We break that second barrier all the way down from first to 18th. So that's going to be an interesting one, Zach, with only a second first 18th.
Yeah, it's not much, which is understandable. There's not a lot of opportunity to gain time here at the Snetterton 200 layout. Into the pit lane comes Tom Davidson. That's going to be the end of his qualifying. Jamie Nuttall unable to improve. And again, it's all about timing, really, sometimes when it comes to tracks that have that oval dynamic, particularly when you've got an open qualifying, or well, pretty much exclusively when you've got an open qualifying. You are so reliant on that slipstream to get a good run, because the only time really you're going to be gaining time is on the straights with a good little bit of slipstream, because in the corners there's not that many of them to gain that time. After qualifying though, it was the TSRC driver of Tom Davidson locking out the front row alongside Jamie Nuttall, who joined him in P2. Kieran Sharp, Gim Hoot at 3 and 4. Ahead of that, Frank Porte Ruiz there in P5. Ron Bouch just there in P6 ahead of her own full, and David Santamaria, row 4. Hayden Miller and Guillaume Hamlin complete the top 10 ahead of Bobby Moss, the Nigel Mansell fan club car. Oscar Soristo joins him on row 6 for P12. The Flying Finn looking to make some progress forward into the top 10 over the course of race 1, I'm sure. The Hungarian Conchabo alongside James O'Reilly. Then comes Matt Acton. Let's see if he's going to have a photo finish a little bit later on there in P15. Simon Norton rounds off the top 8 rows ahead of Stefan Hutter, Marcel Hess, Jan Wenzel and Grant Miller, the top 20. Then comes the Dane of Thomas Hemmler, Matt Smith and David Barnes to round off the 23 strong car field that we've got ahead of round number 1. It's not the longest run into turn number 1 here at Snetterton, so this initial start phase, I mean, it's crucial if you want to get some decent track position.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've got to be looking out on whether or not how they're going to approach turn 1. It's going to be very tight. It's going to be very tricky. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how these guys get on. And I think they've got to look at the fact that turn 1 is a fast right-hander. It's not a slow right-hander. It's quite a fast right-hander. So, yeah, we'll see how it works out for them. See what happens when they get down into turn 2.
We will indeed. All of our questions will have answers. Of course, the adrenaline is going to be flowing for these drivers, whether it's their first ever time in a Formula 4 machinery, whether they're a returning veteran, whether they've got something to prove, whether they're just here for fun. There is excitement, anticipation ahead of a brand new championship. Everyone is on the grid. We're waiting for the 5 red lights. There they are. 15 minutes on the clock. Davidson and Nuttall, the front row. The Snetterton 200 circuit plays host to the TSRC F4 Championship, and we are underway in racing. Great start from pole position for Tom Davidson. He's already able to cover off Jamie Nuttall. Kieran Sharp looking very menacing in the rearview mirror of Jamie Nuttall, but the top 3 single file as they run their way into Ritchie's for the first time. Then the run towards Montreal, but look how this corner is going to be the very important one. The exit off of this one is vital. Couple of people going side by side into the braking zone of turn number 2. Bit of contact. Simon Norton getting tagged on the inside by Marcel Hess. Now they start the important bit of the Bentley Straight.
Yeah, this is it. This is one foul run here.
And into Brandon and Nelson, of course, the first heavy braking zone of the circuit. Tom Davidson not really under much pressure from Jamie Nuttall, who I think more able to just tuck in behind and consolidate that position rather than battling too hard too early. I think is the general consensus more than anything. It's settling into a rhythm, not getting yourselves caught up too quickly. And like I say, finding that rhythm. 15 minutes is not the longest of races, but when you're under pressure at the race lead, it can feel like an eternity.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And Davidson's going to have a little bit of a mission on his hands now as they're coming down the start-finish straight for the first time. You see Nuttall on the right-hand side. Kieran Sharp tucked in there as well. Nuttall's going to try and hang it out. He's got to be careful. He doesn't leave the door open enough for Sharp, though, because otherwise Sharp's going to take that opportunity and come up the inside where he can. So Nuttall's got to be careful. He's got to try and look on attacking Davidson, but also defending from Kieran Sharp at the same time, which isn't always easy.
It is not. Fortunately for him, it's Kieran Sharp, and he should probably be fine. I say that, actually. I'm quite astonished as to how good of a driver Kieran Sharp actually is. P2 last time in the TSRC F4 Championship behind Josh Millington. Aaron Foll looking to the inside, trying to get involved with this battle with Hutter and Rombouts as they run their way into Brundle Nelson. Little bit of a look there as well, I believe, from Porte Ruiz to the inside of the second part of that chicane. Through the bomb hole, of course, that dip on the inside, probably the only bit of undulation in the entirety of Norfolk, making sure to use that camber is to properly rotate the machine. Aaron Foll going into the braking zone for Murray's, and that is a tricky one, especially in cars that don't have ABS.
Yeah, you've got to be careful when you're coming into Murray's, the left-hander, because you're coming round. You've almost got to try and brake in a straight line and get the car rotating. Not an easy thing to do. Nuttall's just swapped places with Davidson. Davidson's now, you can see Nuttall on the left-hand side there, just going out. And now Davidson is going to be under attack from Kieran Sharp, who is alongside us at the moment here as we're going into Montreal. The right-hander, then we're going to go to the left kink. Now we've got that run down Bentley Straight again. Aaron Phil still at it. Gwilym Van Hoot is also there as well, sitting in 4th and 5th, 6th and 5th. These guys going side by side currently, all from 4th place at the moment for the Aerokinetics. Boy of Aaron as he's trying to go past Gwilym. It does make it past. Gwilym's trying to come around the outside into Rombouts. Is over the curb. That's surely going to cause an accordion effect, and all the cars going to get bunching back up together.
Yeah, side by side, I think that's full versus Porte Ruiz. That's going to allow Miller to close the gap as well going into Coram. Beautiful to see open wheel cars dance their way through the long right-hander, dancing his way the number 28. That is remarkable stuff from Full. Goes in way too deep into Murray's though. That allows the up and under from Porte Ruiz to get the move. Then comes Miller as well, going to move his way up into 7th place. So Full very quickly has put himself under pressure. Fight for P4 is here. Rombouts versus Hout, the 18 machine of Rombouts on the inside going into Ritchie's. That is the more beneficial line, the one that definitely should pay off in the end. Side by side for P2 as well as Davidson falls behind Sharp and can't quite find a way back through.
Yeah, there's action all the way through the field. The top three are swapping places backwards and forwards. We're going to do it again here. I think Sharp and Davidson with Nuttall is all going to be scrapping it out solidly. You can see the guys in the background going side by side. Rombouts is at the front with Ruiz. Then you've got Miller, Van Hoot and Full there as well as these guys coming down into the left-hander of Brundle now, and then going through Nelson. There's two pockets of battles developing. You can see first to third, and then fourth, all the way downwards from there. So quite a little bit of a mission there as well. Kieran Sharp's even managed to get himself dragged back into this, and that is partly because I've got a funny feeling he's done that. He got off the side of the circuit, got a bit squeezed on the exit of Nelson, and unfortunately did not make it through.
Momentum. It's so important, not only in Formula 4 cars, because they've not got a tremendous amount of power, something in the region of 160 brake horsepower, I believe you said earlier, all to the rear wheels, and a circuit like Snetterton, where you have to keep your minimum speed to a high. You have to keep the minimum to a maximum for as much of the lap as you possibly can. You are going to struggle if you lose just a little bit of momentum. Takes you a while to build it back up, and one mistake has seen Kieran Sharp lose 2 seconds to take that top 3 fight. It's now just the top 2 between Nuttall and Davidson. Rombouts though is not going to waste this opportunity to battle for a podium. He's got sights of last year's runner-up right in his sights, going into Brundle and Nelson. Not quite late enough on the brakes, not really eager enough, I suppose, on the brakes, maybe hoping for a chance they can recatch, because the moment Nuttall and Davidson battle, that 2.5 seconds, that's going to mean nothing.
Yeah, you're asking a lot, right, with two people who are very sensible in an F4 car. You know, Nuttall and Davidson know that they've got to break away from the pack. That's the only thing they've got to really make sure they do. Sharp's under pressure. He's going to be under pressure all day. As we can see from Rombouts there, he's going to be literally dealing with this situation. Look at Rombouts go now. He's going to look at pulling out around the outside. There's going to be a bad move in conjunction, because unless he can cut back, he's going to lose the inside for turn number 2. So really, he wants to be on the outside if he can. Sharp's not giving him a sniff, and now Rombouts is under pressure from Ruiz, who's just sent it on him going into turn 2 before they go through for free. And now they start that run down the Bentley Straight again.
And look how quickly Kieran Sharp's been able to pull out nearly a second gap, purely because of that one single move. Porte Ruiz finds his way up into P4. However, that might well be momentary success. Into Brundle and Nelson side by side as well. Full getting himself into the action. Rombouts not quite able to launch an attack. Very squeaky bum time between the pair of them. There goes, of course, Full on the inside of Brundle, waiting for his time. Then into Nelson, capitalizes on it quite nicely through the bomb hole. And there's Full up into the top 5, potentially sparking a move for P4 in the near future as well, but he's got to be careful. He's got to keep his wits about him, and that's the dynamic that they're in a race like this.
Oh, it was side by side for Van Hoot and Miller there, going round at Murray's last corner. They were battling it out as well. We've just broken into the 7-minute mark. Almost halfway through, you can see the Mansell Bobby Moss liveried machine behind us. He's trying to get through as well. There's just nowhere to go in that midsection. That they are literally so close together. As you can see alongside us, he says Santa Maria here, as he's just about to go up the inside. He has gone through, taken our nose up on the exit, and now Bobby Moss has got to go again. He's got the Bentley Straight. Trouble is what draft he's got. Santa Maria's got the same thing with the cars in front, so it's really up to Moss to make sure he is so close coming into the left-hander of Brundle that he can make it coming out through the right-hander, so you go through Bombhole, Coram and Murray's to get that run down up for start-finish straight. And that, Mr. Moss, is not going to get you close, as they're 3 wide further down as well, the Rombouts and also Full and also Ruiz.
There's a name in there somewhere, I'm sure.
At my age, mate, you use denture cream. Unfortunately, just sometimes it falls out.
That's what you get for being able to remember Nigel Mansell, I think. Tom Davidson versus Jamie Nuttall, of course, that swapped momentarily. Not entirely sure if Nuttall's going to go for a counter-attack or not in the near future. Side by side, the 28, that's full defensive into Richie's. Rombout not quite able to get the up and under, but it definitely does give you a better run. You can see under pressure is Aaron Full. Viardi Rombouts, though, searching for that gap. Not quite able to get it into Montreal, this tight chicane-like complex. It's not worth it going for a move, knowing how much time you can lose.
Oh, there's one of the Aston Martin liveried F4s there. I know you love a good F1 livery on an F4, as we're on board with the Aston Martin of James O'Reilly, chasing down Guillaume Hamling here. I think Hamling in front. Hamling just quicker through that first half. Moss, unfortunately, looks like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Doesn't really know what to do. He's got to gather his head again. He's a little bit on the jagged edge, I think, riding probably and driving harder than he probably needs to, especially as the fact he's still got 6 minutes, which is equating to roughly about 6 laps, 7 laps to go. And all Moss is done, unfortunately, he's gone down positions. He's down one place where he gridded, and he's lost a couple throughout the race as well. So there's a lot that's going to happen here. And I don't think this is done by any shape of the imagination. And Kieran Sharp, well, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes at the moment, because currently he has got everybody. There's Kieran Sharp. He's got 3 seconds to Araya Full, who's got Rombouts, Ruiz, and everybody basically pretty much behind that.
To be fair, I wouldn't mind being in his position. He's got the easiest job, and because of the battle between Davidson and Nuttall, he's back within the slipstream range. 3 wide as they run their way down the Bentley straight towards Brundle and Nelson. Let's see who's going to be the better beneficiary of this one. Rombouts all the way to the left. They're going to take it 4 wide. The 23 trying to squeeze it through there. Of course, it's the 97 trying to funnel his way in as well. That's Oscar Soristo side by side at the front of this train. Porter Ruiz able to hang on to 4th place. Aaron Full then stuck on the outside, but not able to lose another position, thankfully for him. There goes Oscar Soristo battling away with Rombouts, and that is the consequence of battling too soon. They're going 2 wide, 2 deep on that run in towards Murray's.
Yeah, they've gone through the bum hole 2 wide, which is quite good for them. So it looks like Soristo went off the side of the circuit. Ruiz is now under attack from Full once more. Full's really not quite sure where to go. He was getting all loose in the middle there, a bit loosey-goosey from Full coming around turn 1. Then he's got the group all the way down to James O'Reilly, who's right at the back. We've got Aston Martin versus Williams at the back end here in the liveries. Oh, bro, where are you going? Oh, man, that was a send and a half there. I think that was Santa Maria it was in that machine, and he literally got it all wrong, hit the grass, and had to try and stop the car.
Yeah, and that is how easy it can happen. One small mistake and boom. Can nearly be all over if you don't react quick enough. Santa Maria going into Brundle and Nelson. A little bit pinched, and there's contact. And that is how, and there's more at the front. Huge crash here going through the chicane and rolling back onto the circuit. Santa Maria nearly into the path there, I believe, of Norton. Talk us through it.
Yeah, Gordon Van Holt just gets it all a lot bit wrong. He comes in, he bounces the curb, unsettles the car, go round he goes, collects everybody else. Bobby Moss is there. There was a car on top of Moss. I'm wondering if that was, wow, that was a very poor rejoin. I'm not going to lie on that one. If you watch the rejoin from Gordon Van Hoot, here, watch this rejoin as he comes through. He starts driving on into the cars, and no, and no again. There's a lot more no's in that one, as I believe Hamling is the one that went upside down here, Zach, as he got caught up looking at the sky. Over he goes, and we're now sitting on the roll bar of that F4. Thank God. There as well, it is only imaginary, or what else can we virtual.
There you go.
Virtual.
Yeah, it's not imaginary.
Virtual.
It's there.
Virtual, maybe.
It's virtual. Pretend race cars. That's what we like to see. Up the front, Tom Davidson still leading from Jamie Nuttall. Kieran Sharp momentarily within a second, but that's fallen out after these two have settled down. How long is that going to remain a truce for, though, between the pair of these guys? Defensive into Ritchie's, at least for a moment, was Tom Davidson thinking about defending, but Nuttall not quite close enough for an attack. Look at the glare. I couldn't imagine having to drive with that beaming down into your face, whether it's virtual or real. It's not fun having the sun glare at you through Montreal, then the left, then onto the Bentley straight. And this is where you make your money if you're the car behind, because this is the golden opportunity with just a handful of laps left to go. 2 at the line, I believe. And here comes Jamie Nuttall going for the lead.
Yeah, he's got to take the left-hand side. He really wants the inside if he can. For Nelson, he's not going to get it this time. Nuttall just kind of almost reminds me of a lion playing with his food a little bit here. I think he knows he can get Davidson, but he's got to get closer coming through Coram down into Murray's here, the left-hander. Got to keep it nice and close. Get that run down the start-finish line. There's going to be one and one more, maybe just about at the line here. We'll keep an eye because iRacing does do weird and funky things, and all of a sudden it will be the white flag. Barney isn't there. I think Barney's off on holiday in general, and Jamie Nuttall now, I believe, may get one and one more opportunity here as he continues to fight. Rumabouts full and Portia Ruiz going at each other as well. They're coming round to turn one. But no.
Careful, boys, careful. But Squeaky going through the next left-hander, of course, of turn 3. He's going to go straight through. It is Rombout, spot the gap, and beautifully done. He hasn't quite got enough overlap, though, I don't think, to go for P4. Change for the lead as well. Nuttall versus Davidson. Nuttall able to keep the lead. We'll focus our attention on this battle, though, into the chicane. And the 18 unable to go the long way around. Or does he actually? Late bit of agility to send him through. They emerge 3 wide on the exit as Full actually gets the up and under, decides to back out, though, going into the next right-hander. Still side by side, though. Portia Ruiz versus Rombouts.
Yeah, unfortunately for Davidson, he's gone off the side of the circuit. That's put him up to the clutches of Kieran Sharp. Sharp's going to have a go on the right-hand side. You can see him there in that 23 machine, going for it on the right. He's got one more lap. This is it, final lap. Oh, it's finished. Told you
it was close.
Told you it did. They do funky.
I mean, they crossed the line at, what was it, 13:58, which, of course, a 1 minute lap time would see you perfectly on 15 minutes. So not entirely sure as to why the white flag wasn't thrown, but nonetheless, it's Jamie Nuttall from Tom Davidson, Kieran Sharp, ever so close to the back end of the 42. Photo finish across the line between the pair of them. What a battle all the way through. And of course, we'll run you through the full extent of the grid order. But for race 2, 25 minutes, so we had an extra 10 on, plus a top 10 reverse. Nuttall and Davidson, they did great at running away from the front. How are they going to fare from, having to fight their way through a pack?
You know what? If I had an answer for that, I would pick next week's lottery number. But at the moment, I really don't, because I'm not sure how it's going to go. Because they've got to work on the fact that they've got to try and get over the line and making sure that they get through the reverse grid. So all in all, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out, but that's the results of race 1.
Yeah, Jamie Nuttall able to convert that front row into a victory in the end. 7 tenths back was Tom Davidson, who a further half a tenth back was his teammate of Kieran Sharp, who completes the podium. Frank Portia Ruiz, Vivaldi Rombouts in a very heated discussion for the top 5. There goes Aaron Full. Hayden Miller just in behind, ahead of James O'Reilly. Gogoli Konchaba ahead of Simon Norton. He's going to be rounding up on pole position for race 2. Janis Wenzel in P11 ahead of Matt Acton, who worked his way up quite nicely into P12 after 15th on the grid a little bit earlier on. Bobby Moss from Grant Miller, David Santamaria, Guillaume Hoot there in P16 ahead of Matt Smith, Thomas Hemler, Chris Barnes, and Stefan Huter there in P20. Marcel Hess from Oscar Soristo, who momentarily was inside the top 10, but of course that huge crash about the halfway point saw a number of cars DNF. And Guillaume Hamming is the last of them there in P23. Good thing is because there are so many points on offer, everyone gets something.
Definitely. Who was in 19th?
David Barnes.
Okay, David Barnes. All right, just check. Checking.
Interesting. Okay. What? Why?
Called him Chris Barnes.
Oh. Hang on. Let me have a look at the entry list. What is his name? It is David Barnes. No, it's David
Barnes, but you called him Chris Barnes.
Did I?
Yeah. I think you're...
Did I actually?
Yes. That's why I sat here and was like...
There's no one even called Chris on this grid.
Nope, not on this one.
Where do I don't even know Chris Barnes. What, JPB? Does he do JPB stuff? Oh, he does. Ah, fair dues. All right, no, that's fair. Sorry, David. My apologies.
Completely
Yeah,
calling
I
you
don't know.
somebody else.
Yeah, just completely robbing your identity. I'm sure you're a fantastic man. I don't know. Yeah. But it's fine. It's cool. I won't be here next week, so you can direct all of your grief towards James Parfitt because I won't be here to deal with it. Janis Lucas Wenzel out there in warm-up. And I ask you this question pretty much any time there's a transition between race sessions. What is the point of going out for a 5-minute warm-up session?
I cannot answer that.
Because there isn't.
I don't do it. I sit back, I make a coffee out of my coffee machine, or I sit and chill, or I do something completely different. To be honest with you, I don't really see the point of it. But maybe for these guys there might be a point. I don't know, but for me, I don't really see the point in this. I will literally just sit, chill, get a drink. I don't know. What else? Dave.
Yeah. Because what can you learn in a 5-minute transition between each race session? Like, it's like cramming for an exam. You might be able to hang on to a little bit of knowledge, but is it going to revolutionary change your outlook? Is it going to incredibly enhance your racing ability? Probably not. But can you benefit, say in the example of an exam, having a good night's sleep as opposed to cramming in? In the example of this, you've just had that high of adrenaline that you've had for the last 15 minutes. You've had all that carnage, whether it was a good result or a bad result. Surely it's more beneficial to just get up, walk around, have a coffee, pet your dog, get some fresh air, whatever it is that you can spend the next 5 minutes doing. Is going to be more beneficial than staying in your hot and sweaty sim rig that we all know, especially as we approach the warmer months of the year for those in the Northern Hemisphere. Surely it's more beneficial to get out of that sweat and breathe.
Yeah, personally, I think it is. Johnny there has just said can practice standing starts, for example. Those, but you haven't got it right by now coming in. Are you? And I think I don't know. I don't really do it. I don't really do a lot.
That I can understand because you go out on track, you stop, you put the clutch in, put it into first gear, you practice. What I don't understand is people that go out and do laps upon laps. Well, not even laps upon laps because there's only 5 minutes to do. They do like half a lap in some cases and boom, session's over. Unless there is a specific corner that you need to go out and maybe say, all right, I don't want to try it in a race session, but I had an idea and I want to brake 10 meters later into that corner. Yeah, fair enough. What I don't necessarily understand is why you would go out on hot lap. Have just been told by Kieran Sharp, and you can see actually on the session, very overcast here in Snetterton, and a bit of rain on the horizon.
Possibly, yep. And if it is going to be going to be a light little drizzle. So the guys are going to have to be a little bit careful. But we'll bring you up the grid here for race 2. And there it is.
Simon Norton then P10 in race 1, lines up alongside Gergely Conchabo on P2 for the front row. James O'Reilly ahead of Hayden Miller, row 2, ahead of Aaron Full, Vivaldi Rombouts in P6. Frank Porte Ruiz ahead of Kieran Sharp, who finished P3 last time out there in P8 today. Tom Davidson ahead of Jamie Nuttall, the top 10 ahead of Janis Wenzel, Matt Acton in P12, and the rest of the grid pretty much as it was. Bobby Moss, Grant Miller, David Santamaria, Guillaume Hoots, Matt Smith from Thomas Hemmler, David Barnes there in P19, Stefan Hutter, Marcel Hess, Oscar Soristo, Guillaume Howling, the P23 driver on the grid today ahead of what could well be a slip, a slide, probably just a little bit greasy here in Snetterton. Who's coming out on top?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to quite need rain tyres, but I think they're going to be close to it. It's going to be a tough decision. No Simon Norton. Simon Norton not taken to the start.
Yeah, and here we go. 5 red lights are out once again. 25 minutes on the clock here in Silverstone. And there we go. James O'Reilly with a great start from the second row of the field. Already into the lead of the race. Going into turn number 1, the Aston Martin liveried machine. Going into Ritchie's, and it's side by side. A little bit further back. Rombaut's full and sharp. Battling there for 4th place. Onto the brakes. And Miller versus Conchaba. That fight for 2nd place. Hayden Miller moves his way through quite nicely. Carnage in the background as they all settle his way back into racing action. Aaron Phil on the right in the net race liveried machine. There you can see side by side with Gergely Conchaba, Viardi Rombouts, who has to tuck in behind. He's then trying to close in on the Hungarian of Conchabo into the chicane. Very overcast, very foggy. Visibility definitely low. And of course, here at Snetterton, you kind of do need to see where you're going, especially when you've got, 22 other cars all around you.
Well, unfortunately, 4 of them have decided that they didn't want to get through the first lap cleanly. They've all gone and done this. Fortunately, 4 of them had an instant. They all group up together over bang, bang, bang. Like a little accordion effect and in back of each other. But Hayden Miller under attack now from James O'Reilly as they're coming down into turn 1. O'Reilly, Miller, O'Reilly, Miller, Miller, O'Reilly, Riley O'Miller. 4 times they've swapped already, and they're still not giving up as they're on the run down into turn 2 now. Who's going to be able to make it? Looks like the Aston Martin liveried machine should be able to have the inside. Is he going to get the outside? Coming out all day. And I can guarantee if they stay that close, Mr. Sweeney, wheel to wheels, one of them's going to end up in the air.
Yeah, probably so. Too wide, too deep. We've got Miller, O'Reilly, Full, Conchabo just in behind. P1 and P2, P3 and P4 into the chicane at the back end of the straight. Miller on the inside. That should be the dominant line, and he is able to take the apex of the second part. Aaron Full there trying to mount an attack on James O'Reilly, of course, after holding off the attack from Conchabo. He's there in P3, and that's the dynamic that we're setting our way into immediately into this race. That pack dynamic, that pack mindset. Tracking the progress, though, of our top 3 in race 1. The highest finisher, of course, the highest runner of them, I should say, Tom Davidson there in P7, Kieran Sharp, Jamie Nuttall, not making significant progress early on.
No, they're basically in 9th, 8th and 7th. They've not really gone anywhere. You can see these 2 wide here. Davidson's on the right, Sharp's on the left. Sharp's going to try and go round the outside if he can. Is he going to be able to make it for, well, he is now, because unfortunately Davidson got himself all a little bit tangled up there as they continue to fight once more. And it is Kieran Sharp over Jamie Nuttall with Davidson and the machine. Yeah, I saw that as well. Gergely Conchabo, unfortunately, got it all a little bit wrong. And up in the air he went, trying to go round the outside, unfortunately, of Aaron Full. That left him nowhere to go.
It did not change for P2 as well. Rombaut's on the inside of Aaron Full, and yeah, all kicking off. And that's the margin for error that we're talking about. And it's not really much of a margin at all. Porto Ruiz and Davidson, I believe, have had some issues tumbling down the order. What has happened here? A spin onto the grass, and that collected Davidson. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, Porteous Reeve just spins on the grass, gets it loose, correcting. Not really sure, and I can guarantee if we show you what was going on in that cockpit, his hands were left and right really quickly. Left, then he's right, not stopping it, and unfortunately Davidson is there with him. So Tom Davidson and Frank Ruiz have, dropped down to the bottom of the order. In fact, they've got into the pit lane altogether, but Rombouts has got Full tucked up right behind him with Kieran Sharp behind that. Then we've got 1.4 to Nuttall. Then we've got the gaggle again. It seems like we get the big mid-pack collective, and it's led by James O'Reilly with Bobby Moss, Quillen Van Hoek, Gergely Conchabo, Santa Maria and Matt Acton. Now, Acton in that Please Be Patient student driver livery that if you ever see on an official, you give them a wide berth.
A little bit, yeah. Santa Maria around the outside, beautifully done. Turning the inside into the outside at Brundle, then into Nelson, able to stay ahead of the Hungarian of Conchabo. 5 minutes basically into this race, and already a ton of drama to, of course, note. Kieran Sharp back into the top 4, making some good progress. Make that the top 3 as Rombaut has had a huge issue on the exit of Murray's onto the infield section. And it's easily done, just like that. Too much speed out of Murray's, onto the grass, and away he goes.
Yeah, I can guarantee there's a grass catch somewhere, whether or not it's on the exit or on the entry. Going to be on the exit.
Yeah, way too much speed in. The car was loose. before he even got to the apex. You could see the rear end going, and I can guarantee he knew full well that he'd let off the brakes too early there, turning the car, didn't have any of it. Santa Maria looking to the outside, of course, of Bobby Moss, not quite able to go for that particular move. We've got Full and Sharp as well in that battle for P2. Great news, though, all this carnage for Hayden Miller, 2.7 seconds clear of the pack.
Yeah, he's escaped. He has literally escaped for the man from the Phoenix Racing team. He's just put his foot down. He's gone. Still got, mind you, he's still got just under 20 minutes. Still a lot of racing to go, and he really wants to rely on Aaron Full, giving Kieran Sharp a whole heap of grief here. Now, the thing for Miller, he's just got to go round, make sure he hits every apex, make sure he does that 108, 109 that he's capable of that he just hit last time. Looks like Thomas Helmer's also unfortunately had a little bit of an incident either with himself or it looks like a solo. So from there for Thomas Helmer, but for Miller, he's just got to keep going, hitting as close to his best as he can. His best is a 108.81, and the reason I'm bringing that up is Kieran Sharp's best is a 108.44, so nearly 3 tenths, nearly 4 tenths faster than Miller. So Miller's got to rely on two things: Full pressurising him as best as he possibly can, and Miller just doing his quali laps every single lap.
Yeah, putting in as good of a lap time as possible, but even then, doesn't necessarily need to be quali laps. I mean, for these two, if they continue to battle, it's going to be difficult for them to close 2 seconds around a 1:08 lap time circuit. It's difficult. So for Miller, he's just settling into a rhythm, keeping it on the grey stuff, and hoping that they continue to battle and don't close that gap anymore. But for right now, he's safe. Don't get complacent, don't feel secure or safe, but don't push the limits and force yourself into that mistake. Exactly what James O'Reilly has done. A driver that was leading this race going into turn number 1 is now outside the top 10, even beyond that.
Yeah, he is, unfortunately, and it looks like it's quite a few people managed to get past O'Reilly. It started kind of here, really. Last corner again. But the question is, was it last corner coming in? It looked like he may have just caught. Nope. Done exactly the same as what Romabouts did. The only difference is he managed to stay on the circuit there as well. Full and Sharp, you don't know how much you're doing Miller a favour at the moment here, Zach, by battling away, and Jamie Nuttall's in the background.
Yeah, all the favours really for Hayden Miller. He's just going to be able to feel more and more secure at the front the more and more these drivers battle. We're just under 8 minutes of the way through, got basically 2/3 more of this race left to go. You can see Hayden Miller, he's not a million miles away, and that is way too much speed. Aaron Full, you can see it coming from a mile away, Sharp into the side of him, and that is going to be damage. Into the pit lane comes last year's runner-up. He is effectively out of the running for this race, so too is Aaron Full. That releases Jamie Nuttall, but in doing so, 1.5 seconds was lost to Hayden Miller, and he's going to be gleaming with a smile about that. Can't say the same for the other three.
No, Full has done the same thing that everybody else has done, or the 3 people that have had incident in that final corner, they've done exactly the same thing. That unfortunately puts Full all the way down in 12th. Sharp's come out in 11th. So at the moment, Miller is sitting out in front 3.5 seconds here. Now, I would say for him, got to try and hit some of his best. Don't get me wrong, Nuttall is behind, but Nuttall's best is a 108.38. His best is a 108.81. I'm not going to take into consideration the last lap time at the moment because that's not variable of true pace, considering Nuttall had an incident coming around the last corner on that one. But I think the next lap or so, we might have to start looking into what the lap times are going to be, because I think Nuttall will have the pace, but it's how much he's going to have the pace over Miller at the front of the field.
Exactly that. Is there enough time? Is there enough laps for him to close? That last one 4 tenths quicker, which means he's going to need, what is that? So 32 would be about 8 times. So yeah, there's enough time if he keeps up at 4 tenths of a second a lap, but that's a tough margin to keep consistently. So Jamie Nuttall is going to need some great pace if he wants to take the double victory for round number 1 here at Snetterton. But of course, only time will tell. Maybe there is a mistake for Miller, for Nuttall. We won't know. The next closest battle, though, is this one for P4. Santa Maria versus Moss versus Rombouts Conchabo. Matt Acton actually pulling out to the left-hand side to try and take the place away from Conchabo in the very stripy yellow and black. That is Matt Acton going to the outside of the last part of the chicane. Nicely done from Acton. And, well, just goes to show he's not a bad photographer. He's not a bad racing driver either.
No, it just goes to show it can be done as well. Anybody that's sitting at home thinking, whoa, you can do it. You know, and that's the thing. There's a lot of things you can do in iRacing. If both, Bobby Moss has gone for his audition in the Upside Down for Stranger Things. Off he goes. See you later. Unfortunately for Bobby Moss, he's off the side of the circuit. Unfortunately for him, but can go by side, but as long as both drivers aren't silly, you know, and that's the thing. I've seen it in the Martinsville officials this week at NASCAR. I went side by side with somebody for at least 3 laps in there, and that's not normally done because normally somebody comes and sends it and punch you off in the meantime, and it's been a very tricky week. But if both people have got their heads screwed on and leave the respected amount of room that the cars need, can do it.
Just like that, Rombouts versus Santa Maria once again battling their way through. It takes 2 to tango. It takes mutual respect. It's very easy for things to go drastically wrong, but if both drivers are like-minded and not having an F1 livery on a F4 machined car, then you know you might be able to get away with it. It's that mutual respect. People who go into with the mindset of, I get the apex first, it's my corner, don't really care if I'm on the outside or not, we're going to crash. That's not the mindset that you want to have, and unfortunately it's the mindset that a lot of sim racers do have. Let's see how these two go side by side into Ritchie's. I think Santa Maria did back out, and he did in the end. Approaching the half distance mark though with 12 minutes on the clock. Matt Acton, by the way, soaring his way through the field on the inside of turn 2, looking to make it a top 5 finish after taking P14 in race 1. He's looking not, actually no, it's P12 in race 1, P14 in qualifying, P5 in race 2, Matt Acton.
Yeah, he's up 6 places, doing a stellar job at the moment. Nobody's going to really argue what Matt's up to. You can see the gains are all in the top 6. Turbo is the first one in the top 10 that's lost positions. And unfortunately for Acton, we're just bigging him up, and he goes and does that. Saristo doing a great job. He's up 13 places. Miller's up 3. Hamlin's up 9. And everybody else, unfortunately, as you can see on the left-hand side there, is down that position. And Matt Acton, I think, just got it all a little bit wrong going into Nelson. Started getting loose, couldn't correct the car, and unfortunately he's gone round right at the moment that you were bigging him up. And unfortunately for Matt Acton, he's gone and done himself a cropper coming into Murray's once more. So them 2 little big ups you've done there, Mr. Sweeney. You cursed the young man as he's now going to go round and join in the list.
James Parfitt, I know you are one for your conspiracies, but don't tell me the commentator's curse is one of them.
No, I don't. To be honest, I think at the moment that we're talking to them, either 2 things happen, right? They've got the broadcast on next to them, and they sit there and go, oh my God, I'm on TV, and then it all goes wrong. Or it's just a pure and utter coincidence skill level situation.
It is. It's skill issue. That's all it is. Of course, there's 3 things. It's bad luck, bad driving, or a bit of both. And that's all there is. It would happen whether or not we looked at them or not. It's just, that is the way it is. Miller versus Full, side by side. This is the fight for P11. Full on the outside. You've got Miller backing up quite nicely on the left, and Full able to take the full amount of speed around the outside going into that chicane, although a little bit too much off the exit. Guillaume Hamling making some good progress, up 9 places from where he started. He's battling away with the pole sitter, fast lap taker, and P2 finisher of race 1. That is Tom Davidson there in P13. Of course, well, the lucky number that is P13, I think, says everything you need to know about Tom Davidson's race.
Yeah, it's not gone too well, has it? Let's be real about it. Unfortunately, got caught up in it. Wasn't his own doing, should we say? There was a second party involved. So unfortunately for Davidson, he's dropped down the order. He's just got to make a best of a bad situation. I think the first round, we can sit here and look at the scores next week, right? And they wouldn't be anywhere in conjunction with where people will finish in the standings. probably, to be honest with you, we wouldn't have to bring the standings up until about round 3, at the end of round 3, round 4, because that's when they're going to start making probably a real difference. And these first round is literally getting points on the board. That's what they've got to do. They've got to get points on the board, and they've got to make sure that they're scoring every race. You're always going to be up and around there.
And that's the thing with sort of short sprint championships, only 6 rounds, so 12 races is this championship. That doesn't leave you a lot to go and score points, right? It leaves you just around about, under 10% of the total score, about 8% of the total point score per round. That's a decent chunk. Per race, I should say, 16% of course for the round. That's a decent chunk of the overall for the season in one race, which means that you don't actually have a lot of time to regain any points that you do lose. It's consistency that is very, very much key in kicking things off. And yeah, you can sit here and say, yeah, well, it's the start of the season, and to an extent, I agree. At this phase, after round 1, the championship lead, it's a novelty. It's a nice thing to have. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and win the whole thing. But also, when we get to rounds 4, 5, 6, the latter half of the season, and then we look back as Santa Maria comes into the pit lane, and we look back and we go, he's 5 points behind. Where could he have gotten those extra 5 points? And then we think, Snetterton. And we go, Snetterton, he lost a position. There's 5 points. Boom. And it's hindsight. So you've got to do everything you can in the present to make sure you don't hate yourself in a few weeks' time when we get to the end of the season.
That's the thing. Every series has a story. The story of how the championship was won. The story of who finished second. The story of who finished third. Every driver in that series then has their own story. You know, Saristo getting caught up in the incident in race 1. Is he going to kick back and think, well, I've lost points because he gained 14 here in race 2? You know, and the same for Davidson. Is he going to be kicking himself because he got caught up in an accident in race 2 that dropped him down the field? You know, every driver will have their own story, but the series will give their own, it will give the complete book. I think that's the thing. The drivers is just a chapter, you know, a chapter of Oscar Saristo's season, a chapter of Matt Acton's. You know, Van Hoot's in the pits now. Miller's in the pits as well as they go in and looking at changing tyres. Nuttall now takes the lead. Rombouts takes second, and Consabo takes third, with Moss in fourth. Hayden Miller's back out on the race circuit here, sitting ahead of Saristo. Saristo's just about to come around the outside, swoops round him there. Like, unfortunately, Miller was stood still.
Yeah, and well, top speed definitely paying off there. Bit of contact. Oscar Saristo into turn number 2, cutting off Miller ever so slightly. Matt Acton now back onto the scene as well, looking very, very mighty in his recovery, of course, after that small mistake, looking to bounce his way back. Top 5 still very much on the cards. Hayden Miller, of course, who was looking very strong to go and win this race. Not quite the case now. Matt Acton on the inside of the chicane is through. Miller going to fight it all the way to the next part of the apex. But the student driver is there. Into the pit lane, though, comes Jamie Nuttall from the race lead. And let's see where he comes out relative to those around him. Rombouts is in as well. Let's see if Conchabo comes in on this lap as well. He does. Plenty of drivers making their way down pit lane. Let's see how they fare against those that already have.
Oh, Acton! Right in front of Miller. Miller was on a run there. He needed to get on his bike a little bit. He did not need to get caught up by that. Nuttall was taking the lead. He's on for a 2 for 2. And now for Miller, he has got Sharp not too far behind. Nuttall, from Miller's point of view, he did not need this. He needed Acton to make this last corner. It would have been a lot closer on the exit. And unfortunately, Acton went round. That's put Miller off the side of the circuit. And Miller has unfortunately gone round. So, tough one here for these guys as well. Don't forget they have got a complete 75% of the race distance. Mr. Sweeney as well to be looking at obviously being in the points. They don't complete that and they don't obviously get scored. some of the drivers here today are not going to get scored. The likes of Stephen Hutter, who has finished down in 22nd. He's only completed 2 and, well, not even 3 laps. David Barnes is a lap down, but he's 2 laps down currently, so he's still within that rules at this moment in time. So all to play for, and all to play for Hayden Miller. How long can he hold on to Kieran Sharp?
Well, let's find out. Probably not for very long. Here comes Kieran Sharp to the right-hand side, trying to promote himself into P2. Does exactly that. Not really much that Hayden Miller can do in order to put a good defence. They've got 1.7 up to Jamie Nuttall. And if they don't want to allow him to take the double, then they are going to need to go and get after him, work as a contingent, and, you know, drive as fast as you can. Drive the wheels off that car. Not literally, of course. That's suboptimal. But Nuttall, he's out there. He's all by himself. These two are a team. They're not a team, but for the moment, for the next few laps, they are, just while they try and do everything they can to catch up, slipstream with each other, use each other as a slingshot, work together to get after him, because that's the only chance that they've got. Second, third, whatever, there's a couple of points between them. But the fight for the win for Kieran Sharp and for Hayden Miller is going to mean a hell of a lot more than P2 or P3.
Yeah, you've got to try, and I know this is not easy when you put 2 people in from a completely different team, right? We've got TSRC, we've got Phoenix Racing here in second and third, but you've got Cracked Racing in first, and the only way you are going to catch that is, from Miller's point of view, is do 2 things. Stay behind Sharp and let him bring you up to him, because Sharp's clearly the quicker, and then that's no disrespect to Miller whatsoever. Miller's best time 108.59, Sharp's at 108.44, right? Does it quicker? Let him go, try and follow him, and allow him to pull him up, as Davidson has made his way up into 5th now, benefited massively from the pit stop cycles. Willem Hamling and Frank Ruiz are going at each other for 8th and 9th here. So from Miller's point of view, allow Sharp to take him to Nuttall. I think that's going to be the way.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point battling. There's no point having their egos with them, with them all the way. They don't want to be holding themselves to their ego. Put it aside, work together, get after Nuttall. I don't think there's enough time, personally, that they're going to be able to go and do it. So maybe at some point that ego is going to creep back in, and Miller's going to be like, well, we're not going for the win. I want as many points as I can. I want to go for P2. That previous lap time, of course, changed a little bit because of pit stops and things on their representable lap times. It's a net 0.03 of a second. Not really much that's changing. Definitely not enough that it's going to change within the span of 2.5 laps. 3 to go. I believe it'll be 2 at the line, depending on when Nuttall crosses it. Fingers crossed. We don't actually know how long the session's got left, thanks iRacing. So we'll see, obviously, what happens with Jamie Nuttall crossing the line, and whether or not he will actually take the checkered flag, whether or not he'll even see the white flag, whatever it might well be, in a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We'll keep an eye on it and see what iRacing, or whether or not Barney's even going to show up. I don't even think he was there last time. I think he must have been having a call at that point, because I didn't even see him waving the checkered flag. So Barney's clearly taking a vacation. So at some points, we get a little bit lost. We're going to be very close. We should be, right, technically, we should be 1 and 1 more, Mr. Sweeney. 1 and this one, and then should be the final lap of the race. Right?
Should.
I say that I do say that in a should word, but should in there. So,
should. Just so we're covering off our side, we are yet to see any rain, unless I'm blind. It doesn't seem to be, just very, very, very overcast. So unless there's a sudden downpour with a minute to go in this race, which, to be fair, I wouldn't say no to. Definitely adds a little bit of spice at the end of this race. That would be very, very interesting indeed. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case. Once again, Norfolk letting us down. Aaron Full looking to the inside of Hayden Miller. That's going to be going side by side through the chicane. Outside once again for Full, who tries to get the up and under. Nicely done. And he tries to fight once again going into the bomb hole, but Hayden Miller doing a brilliant job of defending this podium. Last lap then coming up into Coram, and Aaron Full finds his way past for the podium.
Oh, send it up the inside. Go on. Yeah, big brave boy. Oh, well, he didn't curb there, unfortunately. Did Hayden Miller. again, there's no Barney, so we're going to presume this is the final lap of the race as Barney's having a coffee. Maybe it's cold in Norfolk. Barney needs to go inside.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him. Maybe he didn't even turn up. Again, wouldn't blame him for that either. 7 seconds left on the clock. Where is Jamie Nuttall around the circuit? Got about 7 tenths of it left to go, essentially. Just over half a lap left of this race before he takes the double win for round 1.
Yeah, he's done a great job, to be fair. Absolutely great job. He benefited from the pit stop strategy cycles. I think that was the thing for Nuttall, and he did benefit massively from that, and this is what's happened. And unfortunately for Miller, the problem was Miller got stuck behind Acton, who got it wrong in the last corner, which then held Miller up even more, because if Miller had managed and Acton had managed to come through, I reckon it really would have been a close exit.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. Well, here he comes out of the final corner. Jamie Nuttall has soared his way to not 1, but 2 victories. The opening round of the TSRC F4 Sprint Championship Season 2 goes the way of the esteemed veteran of Jamie Nuttall. Guillaume Hamling, you can see there coming across line. He will finish P8, the driver from Luxembourg. A brilliant result from him, up 15 places from where he started. Was close to P7, not quite enough in the end. We'll run you through the full extent of the grid order, of course, in just a second. But what a race it absolutely was. 25 minutes, action non-stop.
Yeah, I think that it was one of them, to be fair, right? And now I'm going to put this in a respective opinion, and it wasn't half bad. I think that was the thing. I didn't really know what to expect coming in when you get 24 drivers and some of them are new, what to really was going to happen, because we've another series, and across every series we do, when it's the opening round and you get new drivers in, sometimes it all just goes a little bit Pete Tong until you can figure out who you can't race and can race. But I think here, very nice, very nice.
Very nice indeed. Well, 25 minutes of racing have concluded. Jamie Nuttall then taking a full 130 points from race points alone. I don't think he scored the fastest lap in either race, so just 130 points, just 130 points for Nuttall. Kieran Sharp there in P2, making it a double podium for him. Aaron Full, last lap swap, or penultimate lap swap with Hayden Miller, sees him take 3rd, while the Phoenix Racing driver takes 4th. Tom Davidson P5 ahead of Ron Bouts in 6th. Porter Ruiz ahead of Guillaume Hamling, up 15 places from where he started. Brilliant race from the driver from Luxembourg. Santa Maria, Guillaume Hoots, the top 10 ahead, Hungarian of Gergely Conchabo. Bobby Moss, a spin in the infield for him, still able to muster up P12. James O'Reilly, Oscar Soriso, Matt Acton, P15 for him in the end. A couple of mistakes. The top 5 was definitely there on the cards. Janus Wenzel ahead of Marcel Hess, Grant Miller, Matt Smith, and Thomas Hemler there in P20. David Barnes, P21. Stefan Huter, Simon Norton, the 23rd and final driver, was on pole. Unfortunately, didn't get to the checkered flag, didn't get anywhere near the checkered flag, unfortunately. I believe we have got Hayden Miller in the interview waiting room if you'd like to just have a quick little chat with him before we round things up. Of course, Hayden, for you, I suppose, talk us through your evening as such. Race 2, how were you feeling? Obviously, with the chance for the win on the cards, in the end of P4, decent points bagged, and not a bad way to start the season.
Yeah, it was alright. Obviously, race 1, I knew it was going to be reverse grid, so I wasn't actually, trying to get top points, top position, because I knew I'd start in the front in race 2. So race 2 just started well. I knew to instantly pressure the guy in front of me, and he unfortunately made a mistake. So after I got into P1, I just knew to keep my head down and just keep the lap times fast and consistent. Obviously not quali pace, but it was fast enough to keep Jamie behind me. But soon I was getting a bit light on fuel, so it was getting quite understeery and loose on the back end. But I knew he was pulling away. He was coming close to me, so I just decided to box. But obviously Matt Acton had a wee spin when I was behind him, and I would have got Jamie out of the pits, but that sadly put me into the gravel, and I just got bogged down at the gravel.
Easily done. Small mistake, and yeah, unfortunately that's all it took in the end. as I say, still good points for you, even if it wasn't your aim as such. Going forward, of course, in the championship, what are you expecting for? Of course, you joined us for the second half of last season. Your best result, a P4. Are you looking to? Well, I mean, you've already matched it in race 1 of this season. Are you looking to go for podiums, wins, the championship? What is your aspiration over the course of the next 5 weeks?
Well, you never know, obviously, because the new season's ahead and there's new tracks. Some tracks I'm decent at, some tracks I love, some tracks I absolutely hate. But it's just a matter of getting some practice in, and hopefully I can get into the podium points. But these guys are really fast, especially people like Kieran and Nuttall, and they're really fast, and it's all down to driver pace, skill, awareness, because the setup's fixed. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Before we let it go, is there any shout outs you want to give to the YouTube chats?
I'm seeing my friend here, Billy Bob. He's got me into iRacing, and he's given me a big support, big help. So just shout out to him for getting me involved in racing and giving me a bunch of help with the cars and everything.
Awesome stuff. Well, take care, Hayden. Congratulations for today. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you.
Very much, Hayden Miller then. And next, actually, I can see the big man himself, Kieran Sharp, joining us today. Kieran, congratulations. I mean, not perfect, but double podium, P3, P2 in the end. Can't really complain. Decent qualifying as well. Great start to the season.
Yeah, I can certainly welcome that. Bet I didn't take out Nuttall in race 1 with a knock-up. But yeah, I think a win could have been on. I just needed to tidy it up a bit tonight.
Yeah, so of course, don't want to rub it in too much, but you didn't win the championship last year. Are you going for it again this season? I mean, of course, that's the aim, but Jamie Nuttall, 2 wins out of the gate for round 1. I mean, is that daunting? Are you fazed by that? Are you scared by that? Or are you just going to come out swinging in Sebring?
No, I have to see. Just try and stay near the front. Like these kind of formats, it's all about just make sure you're up there each week, and hopefully, on average, you're scoring more than everyone else. It's not always about just winning outright week in, week out. But it was good to see Nuttall win 2 races. He had some really bad luck last season with some unfortunate crashes and mistakes. Yeah, he showed some good pace tonight.
Definitely did indeed. So, I mean, for the rest of the season, of course, I don't necessarily know how much swing you had in the track choice as such, but what round are you looking forward to most over the course of the next few weeks?
Oh, there's some interesting tracks there. We've chosen a lot of the shorter and some of the interesting layouts. I think the final round will be interesting at Hockenheim with all the long straights and slipstream will certainly spice things up.
I think so indeed. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations for your double podium. Before we let you go, is there any shout outs you want to give to the YouTube chats?
Yeah, just thanks everyone for watching, and everyone who turns up to these races. We don't exist without them.
Well, that is very much true. Yeah, you can't exactly go racing without drivers and people to watch the broadcast, I suppose. Us in the commentary booth as well, it's fine. Well, thank you very much, Kieran. I'm sure we'll see you back in a week's time to take the fight to Jamie Nuttall. Hopefully we'll have Andrew Pike actually show up and, show up, but maybe Sebring's going to be a bit too warm for him and his bald head. James Parfitt, and a successful first round, it must be said.
It is. I think you've just managed to upset half the field in the process. But yeah, a fair one. It was a very successful opening round, yes. I said earlier on, normally opening rounds can be a little bit more chaotic, but this wasn't. It was fairly clean. Yes, was there a rejoin in race 1 that may need to get looked at? Absolutely, because it was driving back in, cars coming on, and unfortunately chaos than needed. But I think overall, once the drivers just get to settle down, learn each other's ways, learn how they get on, they'll be fine. Don't expect any.
I don't think so at all. It was a very successful first round. Ladies and gentlemen of both JP Broadcasting and, of course, the Sim Racing Collective YouTube chats. Of course, make sure you are subscribed. Turn the bell on for notifications to not miss a single thing. Of course, here on JPB, we do pretty much anything in the world of sim racing. Same too is true for the TSRC. Hang on. TSRC. It's not the TSRC because that would be the Sim Racing Collective. Just TSRC. They do everything as well. GT3s, of course, these open wheelers on both iRacing and, of course, over in the world of Assetto Corsa Competizione, both PC and on console. So get yourself involved on both communities. My name has been Zach Sweeney. I've had James Parfitt alongside me in the commentary booth here today. And in a week's time, we'll take to Sebring April 12th for round 2 of season 2 of the TSRC F4 Sprint. We'll see you then. It's goodbye for now.